welcome to another episode of the Edison podcast. I'm your host, Ed Parcaut, and today I sit down with Isabelle Fortin, a former member of the Royal Canadian Air Force turned leadership coach. We're going to dive into Isabelle's military journey, tough transitions to civilian life, and her mission to keep leaders building better workplaces. Get ready for insights on purpose, resilience, and what it really means to serve on and off the clock. Isabelle Fortin, thank you so much for coming on the Edison podcast. I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure and an honor to be here with you, my friend.
All right. So you're from Canada. We got that out of the way. And yeah. So I do another podcast called Helping the Brave, which talks to military veterans about their transition and what they do, what they get into. And lately I've been getting a lot of them through Podmatch, which I know you're not on there anymore, but that's okay. It's no big deal. But there are a lot of business owners on there that are veterans, and I didn't realize it. So what is that? Would you say the same thing in Canada? Because you're in the Royal Canada Air Force, right?
Yes, I was in the Royal Canadian.
Yeah,
that's okay. I did. Right out of high school, I joined, and truth be told, it was a family business. When I joined, my brother was an Air Force pilot, and both my parents had served. They weren't in the military when I was born, but both of them had served. That's actually how they met. So it was just, you finish high school, you sign on the dotted line, and then that's pretty much the way it is. And I have to tell you, I loved every minute of it. I really, really loved it. And I just didn't like the actual job anymore. And I seriously took a really hard look at what other trade inside the organization I could do that would actually tickle my fancy. And unfortunately, I wouldn't find anything. So I got out. I didn't know what to expect, and I really didn't expect what I got.
All right. What does that mean? You think? Because most of us, when we get out with 8 years, right, or less, or 10 years or less, we lose our purpose. Or if we get retired out because of a medical thing, we lose our purpose. And even retirees can lose their purpose, but we lose that, and then we have to find it. So what happened with you?
Oh, it was a clash, like a really hard one. I crashed and burned. It was the lack of leadership training, the way that every single boss was out for themselves and not taking care of their people. It was a drastic pay cut at the time. It was having to decide what to wear in the morning. And I know it sounds a little bit mundane, but it really isn't. It was not having a sense of duty, not having a sense of service, not having a sense of purpose. I really underestimated what it was going to be like, and I wasn't prepared. I know that now when people retire, you can join the military at 17 and do your 20 years in and leave at 37 and be an extremely young retiree. But now they prepare people for the transition to civilian life. When I left in 99, that wasn't the case. And I crashed and burned. I really did. It was one of the extremely traumatic things in my professional life. Yeah.
So up there in Canada, they do, because down here they don't.
They don't help with the transition?
They give you a week class on how to do your resume and this and that. Yeah, they don't. No, it's not the same thing. It's nowhere at all. And that's where I interviewed a guy and had him come to my Rotary, and he was talking about we have a boot camp in, but we don't have a boot camp out. We need a boot camp out. And then I did Operation Firewalk, which is for veterans, where we into the night walk across coals, kind of like a Tony Robbins event, if you know who Tony Robbins is.
Yes.
I say that because my daughter's boyfriend had no idea who he was, and he's 28. So I have no. So anymore, I'm like, maybe people just don't know who he is.
Yeah.
Because he's not doing the big rah things like he used to. Right. He's
that's true.
Collective, smaller ones. And so we had the first event we had Dave Sanderson, who was the last person off the plane that went in the Hudson, and he got everybody off the plane. That was a really good conversation he had that year. And then we walked across coals. And this last year we had a veteran who's been dealing with PTSD since he got out of Vietnam, and and all the stuff he's created because of that kind of stuff. And then the other guy was Bobby Seen, who had both towers fall on him on 9/11, and then was back there the next day taking his brethren out. And so, I mean, so it was really a great event. And that's just my way of giving back and getting people to, understand there's purpose out there. We need to help people. We need to do. And from that, I created this new thing that's going to be helping people transition out, that where they can go one place and find all, if they want to start a job, if they want to do this, all the 6 things that you talked about that we lose, what to wear, what do we do, who to tell, all those things, who we are, who are you now, all that stuff, time management, all that. It's going to teach all that. Plus I have so many people who want to do separate little things, and it's all going to be free to a certain point, so.
That's beautiful, because we need that. I think that the people that have never served their country, regardless of what the country is, don't really like. There's a depth to the work that civilians just don't really truly get. I have yet. It doesn't mean that doesn't exist, but in my experience, I have yet truly met somebody who gets it. Unless they're military brats, then they get it.
Yeah, but I mean, there's people who have no idea that we've been in Afghanistan.
No.
There's people who have no clue. It's like, oh, what,
And how many soldiers you guys lost in Afghanistan?
Yeah, and how many soldiers we lost, and we've lost more soldiers to suicide than we've lost to the last 3 actual wars.
Yeah,
and that's just the ones that count.
Yeah,
those are not the ones that don't count.
I'm part here in Canada. I'm part of the Canada-wide organization, nonprofit, obviously, that's called Soldier in the Streets. And it's truly, truly about just going to homeless shelter and finding out if there are any vets in there. And you can spot the fake from the real one, because if you only ask them what boot camp, because here in Canada, your boot camp has a 4-digit number. And if you served, you remember that number by heart for the rest of your life. So if we ask them, oh yeah, you served? Okay, so what was if they tell you anything that's incongruent with how it works, they're not a vet.
And that's sad that people, want to use that, because there's people who are, we won't get into, use that.
It's so funny because you say that, because my brother and I, both veterans, we rode a motorcycle from Los Angeles to Montreal. So yeah, that's quite a ride. And everywhere we went, he has a veteran license plate on his motorcycle. And everywhere we went, you guys offer a lot of discounts for veterans. And in the 14-day journey, only one hotel asked us to prove that we were vets. Nobody else. No restaurants, no gas stations, no hotels. Nobody asked us. And I don't know why, if it's how we do things, how we interact with people, how we stand, because military people have a different way of standing up. And if you have a keen eye to posture, you can tell. And it's just nobody, they kind of just believed us, which, it was accurate. So we weren't BSing our way, but it was really weird that nobody would ask us. So
I have it on my license. So
yeah.
Because if you're a disabled vet, you can have that put on your license, or just on your license. That way you can, because I never asked for the discount, but lately I've been asking a lot just to see, because there's so many benefits us veterans don't even know that we're able to get.
Yeah, absolutely. Most hotels, we had up to 15% off. Well, if you're going to stay 14 days and 14 nights in different hotels and get 15% off each time, it adds up, dude. It really does. And I was shocked and extremely pleasantly surprised that it didn't matter which country you served. If you're a veteran, they treat you the same way.
Well, we all fought the same war.
Exactly, we did. Yeah, Canada joined the U.S. in Afghanistan. We pulled out before you guys did, but we went there because you asked us.
Yeah, well, don't get me started on how we pulled.
No, I don't want to open a can of worm. I'm just saying.
No, it was just Vietnam all over again. We'll just say
Yes,
that.
that's very true. I agree with you.
And both of them were done by Democratic presidents.
Oh, well, I'm not. I
That's all.
honestly do not know enough about American politics to say anything about it. So I'm not.
I know it just really, unfortunately, there's only two parties these days.
Yes.
And actually the way it's moved is, this is all I'll say about it because I'm on talk radio also, but the Democratic Party of the 50s and 1950s and 60s that everybody talks about how that's their dad's, whatever. That's who the Republican Party is today. That is how far left the current Democratic Party has went, that they're so far, removed from who they used to be. And that's what's so weird about everything. And it's just weird to see where we're at with everything. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, but the reason I brought up,
go ahead. Excuse me.
The reason I brought up the whole military thing is because usually if you do anything in leadership, you tie in, and you've been in the military, you tie into some of the things that you learned while you're in the military, and you can teach people things differently than other people would teach them. Because you're talking about civilians have no idea what we deal with. They have no idea how to, there's so much, like right now, a buddy of mine did he just graduated from UOP, which is a college by here close to us. And he went out and researched a couple hundred veterans and went through and asked them all these questions, all these different things, and created a whole research project of how veterans are and what we lose, which, when we get out, all the 6 things that we lose. I did it easier. I just asked ChatGPT and it told me the same things. But I've been on my Helping the Brave podcast. I've been doing that for 4 years, 1 guest a week. And then now I do 2 guests a week, or that was 2. So if you figure that over a 4-year period, 52 weeks. So I've done a couple hundred of those people too. And we're all pretty much the same, and we learn the same stuff while we're in, and our attention to detail, certain things. Yes, we sometimes have PTSD. Sometimes we have moral injury, certain things that happen to us that we need to deal with that we haven't dealt with. But overall, people do not know what we think, how we feel, how we're so close. We don't, and we really don't see color like other people see color at all. I mean, yes, we're rude to each other about what we are and our nationalities and everything, because that's the way we can, get to go through hard times. Sometimes you have to your humor is a little different in order to get through some of those times. And we can, and that's okay. And that's only for us to do. Don't you even think about doing it if you're not one of us.
Yeah. And you know what, to your point about humor, a friend of mine served in the military, and he had a plane crash, and they landed in snow at dusk. And so search and rescue, they stayed, when they left the airport, it was May, beautiful sunshine. They were going in the mountains, above the mountains. They weren't planning on spending the time the entire night in snow. So they had their runners and their shorts and t-shirt, and that was it. And they landed in 80 feet of snow. And so they nearly froze to death because of the snow, right? And when search and rescue found them 12 hours later, the first thing that they said is, guys, you bring coffee? Because what are you going to say? You've been on survival mode for 12 hours. You don't know if they're going to find you. You don't know when they're going to find you. You don't know if you're going to get eaten by a bear. You know nothing. So when search and rescues arrive, you just go, oh, goodness. Okay, I can go back to just, making fun of the situation, because half the time we deal with so many horrific things that humor is the only way to go.
Yeah. I mean, there's
And I've been very lucky because I wasn't deployed in war zone, and I wasn't a witness to horrible things. But I know enough people to know that, yeah, we don't laugh at the same things, and we don't laugh the same way.
Yeah. I've caught myself with something about snickering about a bad thing, right? And they're like, and it's like, you have no idea why I did that. Yeah. It's not, the way that you took it. I lost a transaction because I snickered when someone said something. And it was like, okay, I'm in the mortgage industry. Someone was, some younger person told me that they were an amazing negotiator. As I snickered because I look at it like a Christian. If you have to say you're a good Christian, you're not a good Christian.
No.
It's how you walk the walk. A good negotiator doesn't tell you they're a good negotiator. They just negotiate the shit out of you. And then you go, wow, that person's a freaking good enough. And I'm like, but that's, oh, well, I don't get them all, but I get pretty much 99% of them. So, can't change who you are.
Thank God for that.
Yeah. All right. So because you say you're a leadership coach, is what it says right there on your screen. That's why I did say it. But the question is, you have this against ordinary.
Yes.
Again, is against the ordinary.
Yes.
.org. What is that?
Yeah, I just changed it. I don't mean to interrupt you, but .com. I just changed it.
Well, it's right there on the screen as .org.
Oh, I see. I didn't even change it on my screen. Jeez, Louise.
So I take it you use StreamYard?
I just changed it like 3 days ago, which is more than likely the reason I forgot to change it on StreamYard.
That's okay. I'm sure they forward to the other place.
And I don't even know, but it's .com.
Yeah, all right, so tell your tech person to have it forwarded to the other one.
That would be me.
Just go online to whoever hosts it and have it forwarded to your other one.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So what is that?
Okay.
How did you get into this whole area? Right.
Excuse me. Yeah. Well, the reason I got into leadership coaching is because of my transition from the military to the civilian world. Because when I joined corporate America, the first boss I had was horrible. I only lasted in that job for 5 months, and I went, what the hell is this? This is bullcrap. This is bad leadership. And I thought it was her. I really did. And I've apologized to her since then. And then I got to the second job, and it's just more of the same. It's like, what in the name of Jesus is happening here? And then I get to the third job, and it's still the same thing. And I go, okay, so there's something amiss. Something's missing here. And at the time, for a lot of things, and some of them that we actually named so far in my transition was a really hard thing for me, I was facing personal demons that I had to take care of first. So once my personal life got settled a little bit more, I kind of started looking into what was happening. Why was civilian leaders so freaking bad? And it's the lack of leadership training. In the Army, if you're going to have a leadership position, in order to get that promotion, you need time in, you need your trade training, and you need leadership training. And if you're missing one of these three, you're not getting promoted, period. So you go to the corporate America, and they take the best sales rep, and they go, wow, you're so great at sales. We're going to put you in charge of the sales department. Well, selling is a skill, but leadership is another skill. And it's not because you're good at one, you're good at the other. But they get no training. What the hell? No, you need to learn these things. And honestly, the more I work with leaders, the more empathy I have with them, especially middle management, because it's a horrible position to be in. And the more I give them really efficient tool, really quickly, I equip them as quickly as I possibly can so they can at least start to stop doing the damage. I know it sounds like, it's a an opposite, but so they can stop, first and foremost, they can stop doing the damage. Because in the last McKinsey report, they are now able to prove that leaders have more impact on your health than your MD does. Imagine the impact that has on your life, on your family life, on your marriage, with your relationship with your kids, with your parents, with your siblings, with your neighbors, I call that the dinner table effect. If you're happy, if your natural ability is put forward, if you know how you contribute to the mission, to the team, to the organization that you serve, imagine what that does to the dinner table.
So how did this come all about? This started.
Oh, yeah. That was a long time coming. It was a really, really long time coming. I did a whole bunch of things. I was in sales. At every company that I worked for, I very, very rapidly became the leader without necessarily having the position. But it was just people were drawn to me and drawn to the way that I did things and the way that I would explain things and the way that and somebody saw something in me and said, you should teach this stuff. And I went, yeah, you know what? I should. And I did for this organization. And then somebody else came and said, hey, I heard you did that for my wife's company. Would you come and do it for mine? And I'm like, well, I got a full-time job. And then eventually it just, the side hustle became the full-time job.
And how long you been doing it?
Oh, longer than I care to share.
More than 10.
And as a full-time employment, about a decade.
Okay.
But basically all my life.
Oh, by the way, you're against the ordinary goes nowhere.
So. .org?
Yeah.
Okay, so .com people, against the ordinary.com. Yeah, but thank you for letting me know. I will ask them to put it, to link it to the .com.
Yeah, it's easy, forward it over. So that way, if anybody has the old one, they can still find you,
Yeah, if I still own the domain, because that might be the problem.
If you owned it for a long time, they're not going. You can still go back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. Because they protect it for a while so you can get it back. It's not like it used to be where you lost it and then, I want it now. Someone would swoop in and buy it, and then you'd have to pay arm and leg to get it back.
Yeah.
All right. So when you teach the individuals on how the leadership in their companies and how to make it better for people, because I come from the old school where you were happy to have a job, right? Yeah, right. And so this whole new theory about I gotta what is our purpose? What are we doing? Who are we saving? What are this? It's like you're here for a job. You're supposed to do that on your own time, but that's not how it is.
No, not anymore.
Is that just a 10 or 15 year range of people, or is it the overall everybody's changed that way? You follow what I'm getting? Because I have a 22-year-old son who's in the Army as a airborne medic, and he's not that way. And then you have people who are like 33 and above that are not that way either. So I'm wondering,
yeah, that's an interesting question. I think that more and more people are going to be that way. I think that we're extremely polarized for a lot of reasons, and social media being one of them, because your algorithm feeds you what you want it to feed you, right? It feeds you what you're telling it to feed you. So I think that more and more, first of all, I think that the younger generation are less money driven than we were. And I'm guessing we're about the same age. And the other thing is there's less of a quote unquote community. I mean, they have 5,000 Facebook friends, but nobody to help them move. You know what I mean? So
I have over that, and nobody will help me move.
So,
Or do I want them to help me?
yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah.
I'm going to hire a real mover so I don't hurt myself. Yeah.
Exactly, and sit on the couch while they're moving it. That would be me. Um, but
But back to your thing where you say that they're not money motivated. I think that's changing.
well, I
I
think
think
it's changing in just the last year and a half, because I mean the price of houses is going up, the price of food is going up, the price. I mean, like, I know, like, from one state to the next, things change, and I live not on the island of Montreal. I live in the suburbs, and my house is half the size of my dad's house, but he lives an hour and a half east of here. And for his house is worth maybe half of the worth of mine. You know what I mean? Just because
right.
location, right? So I think that things are changing, but one thing is for sure is right now the economics, and regardless of what's happening between the US and Canada, it's everywhere in the world, prices are going up. And if I only look at my house, when I'm ready to sell it in 15 years, the young couple with two kids that are going to want to buy it, they're gonna have to, ask mom and dad to help them with the down payment, because this house is gonna sell for $700,000, and if they're only making 55,000 each, it's not enough. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, they
I
can't
think
afford
that,
that.
yeah. So I think there's a bunch of, or a generation that weren't money driven, but they could still buy a house for 200K. But now that there are no houses for 200K and there are no houses for under 600K, well, then they're becoming more and more driven, because that's money driven, because that the economy that they live in. So they kind of don't have a choice. But back to the original question, is they're still looking for a little bit more fulfillment inside their work than even we were. And you and I are not good examples of this, because we joined the military. And the people who join the military don't only want a job, they want a lifestyle, they want a purpose, they want something bigger than them. They need to serve.
Right. But it's not always the people we work for. And most of us don't want to work for people because we were told what to do by dumbass people ahead of us who have no idea what they were doing.
Very true.
And that's why I think a lot of us, 50% of vets, go open a business.
Yes.
Yeah.
For that particular reason.
Yeah. And because companies don't understand us, companies don't understand how to deal with us. And that's what I was trying to get at earlier with the guy that did that survey. The county, a thing just passed where they they want to now understand the veteran community. Really, we've only been around for 100, some ridiculous amount of time. And now you want to understand how to work with us?
Yeah.
Yeah. 200,000.
Yeah, but you know why? Because we're creating businesses and we're succeeding. So now they want their recipe. They want to know how we're succeeding. Because I don't have the stats on this, but I'd be very curious to see how many companies fail and how many companies led by vets fail. And I bet it's a lot less.
Oh yeah, totally less. Because if you look at, you guys don't have a type of a veteran loan in your area up in Canada?
No, not that I know of, at least. No.
So we have a VA loan where it's no money down for vets, and the fact that you served is your down payment. But it has the lowest default rate of any mortgage out there.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. So that just tells you, yes, we have defaults because things happen, but it's nowhere close to the regular, because we'll do whatever it takes to, keep going. But the reason I was bringing up about the people and purpose is because I see that a lot of people are starting their own thing for their own purpose. Right. They're now, their job isn't fulfilling them. So they're doing a 5 to 9 job. And then eventually they're going to go do their own thing. And I think the pandemic has showed us that life's short you need to enjoy what you're doing, whether that's at work and what it is. And if that's working for somebody, great. If it's not, then go do your own thing. It's taught me in the last few years, especially the last 2 years, I'm in the mortgage industry. Well, because rates went up 5%, I've never seen that in the history. And I've been in the business a long time. If we've gone up 1.5%, 2%, no big deal. We get through that. But 5% destroys things, destroys industries, destroys everything. And I'm like, okay, so I need to at least 5 streams of income, passive income and other income. And that's what I've been working on for the last year. So, and that's just something. So, but you also, then you run into the whole, you put all your energy into one thing, right? Because then you do much better at it. But then what do you do?
Yeah, I think I think that the economy, at least the way that it is right now, is kind of forcing us to have 2 jobs anyway, because job security just does not exist anymore.
It never did.
It's for an extremely brief moment in history.
You can be fired at any moment. The only job history you have is working for yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And that's when people go, I want to work for somebody because I have a job here. No, you don't.
No.
Tomorrow the board could go, you know what, we need to cut 30% because we need to keep our bonuses, but we don't need those guys. So let's get rid of them. Not that they can say it that way, but I'm just saying for any reason, today unemployment came out here in the States. ADP came in, jobs created was only like 33,000. They were expecting 130,000, and that didn't happen. And we're going to start seeing lower number of unemployment. New jobs creating, but more unemployment happening. And those numbers will be coming out tomorrow, just because, and this is not because of cuts in DC and everything else. This is just what was going to happen anyway. People were keeping people on payroll as long as they possibly could, because it's so hard to train somebody and get them up to speed. Well, now they can't. Well, it's been 2 years now, 3 years, 4 years. I can't keep them anymore. I got to let them go.
Yeah. That's very true. And it's the same here. It's just, and even with what's going on between our countries right now, regardless of who's right, who's wrong, it doesn't matter.
You're talking about the tariff stuff?
Yeah.
I don't
listen anymore. I
don't use maple syrup.
Yeah.
I get a log cabin one anyway. Just kidding. I don't use
But a lot of people here are going, if they're importing from the US or if they're exporting to the US, and all of a sudden it's more expensive, and there's, they're selling less products and they have to cut. And they come to me and say they can't, we can't afford your services. And I go, well, I'm sorry to tell you, but you can't afford not to have my services right now. Because you need to know who to cut, and you need to know who is devoted to your company and who's going to do, and are they sitting on the right chair? The people that you're choosing to keep, are they sitting on the right chair? Because there's an incredibly large amount of money being wasted in companies by not having the right person do the task. Yeah, but she's been here the longest. Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
Mission comes first, and see, that comes from the military.
Yeah.
When you put the right people in the right chair, they're more efficient, they're happier, their productivity goes up, the turnover goes down, everybody wins. That person wins, the organization wins, the leader wins, everybody wins. So it's just, but it takes a while before people see that there's a better way.
I think a lot of people, when they start a business, they hire the employees and they think of them as family, and they don't focus on the mission first, is what you just stated. And that's where it causes companies to go under.
Absolutely.
I interviewed a guy, and he's like, one of my biggest problems, my first company, was I didn't cut fast enough. We lost a company because of it. And because people want to keep them because, you're
a family member.
Yeah. And I get that. But if you have what you just stated, the mission comes first, period. And that's what we do. The mission's first. None of us are the most important here. It's the mission. Then you just go off of, is this part of the mission? And this is where we're going. And we're going to be able to keep going with the mission or not. We got to let them go. Yeah.
I just did an evaluation with 2 partners. It's an accountant firm. And that's what I kept on repeating for an hour and a half that we were meeting. What's good for the company? What's good for, and that was the decision, is who are we cutting? Are we keeping this person? And is that person? And we were reevaluating everybody. And is this good for the company? I know you're attached to the person, and I understand the human side, but you know what? You're not doing them a favor by keeping them in the job they don't like anyway. When you don't know what you're contributing to the team, what you are bringing to the table that nobody else is, when your natural abilities aren't being, I don't want to say exploited, but at least used, you don't belong there either. And you may not want to deliberately leave because you're going to look for something else and blah, 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 and you got to feed your family. I understand that. But you're not, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you're not doing them any favors either. It's just, that is one of the biggest mistakes that I see with small companies, is they sometimes literally hire their family members. Well, I can't get rid of her because she's my sister-in-law. You shouldn't have hired her in the first place unless she's absolutely phenomenal at that job. Nope. Because then it's on them and their businesses fail because of it. And that's extremely sad, because then it's a disservice for everybody, including yourself.
Yep. All right. So who is your perfect client and how do they find you?
Well, againsttheordinary.com. Let's start by laughing at myself. Ideal companies is less than 100, just because I'm not good with red tape. I did that in the military for a decade and I don't want red tape no more. Whether the company belongs to you or whether you're a team manager or, that doesn't matter, as long as you manage the money that's going to pay me, because I'm not. The one thing that is always lost in translation is, if you want to hire me, but you have to convince somebody else, then it's lost, right? If the connection is between you and I, then you need to have be able to at least justify the money, spending the money. Teams of up to 15 people. And if there are more than one teams, I'm happy to work within the same organization, but one team at a time. Another great way to find me is LinkedIn or Facebook, Isabelle Fortin, and I am the only one with purple hair. You're going to find about 150 of us, but only one with purple hair.
There you go. That's how they find you.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what industry you do.
No, completely sector agnostic and industry agnostic. Humans are humans, and you manage them one individual at a time.
Gotcha. Isabelle, thanks for coming on the show today. I really appreciate you being here.
So much, Ed, for having me. I appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thanks again.
Bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Inner Edison podcast. A huge thanks to Isabelle Fortin for sharing her inspiring journey from Royal Canadian Air Force to leadership coaching, and for her insights on purpose, transition, and leadership in business. Be sure to check out againsttheordinary.com and follow her advice on LinkedIn. Until next time, keep finding your purpose and lead with intention.